Hello! Today's class is going to be about inversions. When do we use inversions? The first example of when we use an inversion is for conditionals. Here we see the sentence. Had I eaten more, I would have been sick. Now, how else would we say that in this conditional? We would say, if I had eaten more, I would have been sick. So we use an inversion when we talk about conditionals. Another example. Were it to snow, school would be cancelled. How would we say this in the conditional form? If it were to snow, school would be cancelled. Negative adverbs also. Seldom, rarely, never again, hardly. Hardly does it rain here in Seville. Negative adverbs, we have to know when to use them. Now, we would use these, for example, if we want to emphasize what we're talking about. It rains maybe 30 times a year in Seville. It's quite an interesting fact. Yeah. So instead of saying, it doesn't rain a lot in Seville, you could say, hardly does it rain in Seville. Okay, so you're emphasizing what you want to say. The third time or occasion we would use an inversion is for adverb phrases. Under no circumstances are you allowed to smoke here. What is the thing we're not allowed to do? Smoke. You are not allowed to smoke here, but we're making sure that the person understands this rule. So we're saying under no circumstances. Of course, we could just say you are not allowed to smoke here, but it's not enough. We want the person to really understand the gravity of the situation. At no time did anybody tell me to bring my own food. Maybe you've arrived to a party and nobody had told you that you were to bring your own food. So you could kind of say to your friend, well, at no time did anybody tell me to bring my food. Okay, so you're kind of telling your friend passionately what happened to you, using an inversion. Also, on no account are we allowed to bring a calculator. Imagine your maths teacher has told you you're not allowed any calculators in the exam. And instead of saying we are not allowed to bring calculators into the exam, you could tell your friends, maybe they've not been told, maybe they were absent, you could say, on no account, John, James, Sam, are we allowed to bring a calculator into the exam. We also use inversions like these in formal situations. It's a very formal way of speaking in English. Okay, here are another 3 ways that we use inversions in English. Number 4, other negative words or expressions. No sooner had we arrived to school than it started to pour down. It's kind of like a comparative sentence, isn't it? We have this word than. I like these shoes better than the other shoes. But in terms of an inversion, we have to use than after no sooner. No sooner had we arrived to school than it started to pour down. Basically, as soon as we arrived to school, it started to rain really hard. Okay, to pour down means to rain a lot. Little did we realise how ill Joe was. So we're adding emphasis to the fact that before we didn't know to what extent Joe was ill. So maybe he comes up to you and says, I'm not feeling so well. But you choose to do the activity anyway. And later he's feeling worse, and he starts to throw up. And you could say to your other friend, you could say, Little did we realise how ill Joe was. He's now vomiting. An extreme case, but you understand. Number 5, we also use inversions when we talk about neither, nor, or so. Now this is a little bit more advanced. Maybe this is something you don't have to master just yet. But, for example, we could say, Jordan isn't a fan of steak, and neither am I. We could also say here, in a non-inverted way, Jordan isn't a fan of steak, and I am not a fan of steak. But we're using an advanced structure, okay? So here we have, also we can say, but I like popcorn, and so does Frank, okay? So this so is also telling us that we're including ourselves in the sentence, okay? Instead of saying, but I like popcorn and Frank likes popcorn too. So you can see how these inversion or these inverted sentences come in handy. Again, number 6, just like number 5, it's a very complex structure and maybe you don't have to master this just yet, but it's good to know. We also use it after as, than and so. So expensive, it means I'm emphasizing the point. So expensive were the shoes, I decided not to buy them. So you were surprised by the price of the shoes. You didn't want to buy them. Another one. This week of quarantine was boring, as were the weeks before. Okay? So, these were 6 different ways that we use inversions in English. Remember, they are very advanced structures to use in a formal way and also to emphasize what we're saying. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. Now it's time to put into practice what you've learned. All the best!